Brett Yormark just pulled a fast one on the SEC. While Greg Sankey's out here fear-mongering, making lies, the Big 12 says they brought the fair plan to the table first. Who's really in control of the playoffs' future? Let's talk about it on this college crossover of Locked On Kansas State and Locked On Sun Devils.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hit me that beat. Welcome into the college crossover, Locked On Kansas State and Locked On Sun Devils. I'm Christian Rauh here with Richie Bradshaw, and let's dive right into the magic here. Brett Yormark dropped some bombs, some knowledge about what the Big 12 really feels about the future of the college football playoffs. Does it agree with the SEC and the Big 10? Well, doesn't sound like it, but we will find out if it actually holds true. There's a lot to talk about in this show. Obviously, going to talk a little Sun Devils and Kansas State as well. Little Sam Leavitt versus Avery Johnson, maybe a little dueling actions, if you will. Maybe the hat will turn on backwards. Who knows? But before we get to it, drop your thoughts, your questions in the comment description below. And if you need a question, what's your favorite new format for the college football playoffs? Is it the new auto bids with the extra auto bids with the Big 10 and the SEC getting 4 apiece? Or do you like this new 5-7, 5-11 type of model that we're about to talk about on this show? And before we do that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Richie, I know I'd like a bonus bet, and let's just get into this bonus conversation here with Brett Yormark dropping some knowledge. And he talked to multiple reporters in these spring meetings, but the biggest one that I saw here was Heather Dinich of ESPN was told by Brett Yormark that the league not only approves this new 5+11 model, which would be 5 automatic bids, basically to the conference winners, which we've already kind of had in this 12-team format. And let me remind you, this is still new, by the way. This 12-team college football playoff, it sounds like we've been doing it for ages because we're already looking to change it, but we just had it the first year last year. And oh, by the way, Arizona State was in it for the first year. Now, Brett Yormark is looking to approve a 5+11 model. And not only did they approve of it, Brett Yormark in the Big 12 presented it with the P4 commissioners when they met in Charlotte recently. He said, quote, "It has always been our first choice. It's fair and rewards on-field performance." On-field performance. Sounds like there's not a lot of SEC hypotheticals in on-field performance, Richie. He says, but he's not surprised SEC coaches like it. What's your thoughts about the potential of moving to this 5-11 model where you get 11 at-large bids in the mix?
I mean, I'm here to support it because at the end of the day, to me, what should be the biggest standout factor when you're looking at who should and shouldn't make the playoff if you don't win your conference is you should be factoring in the quality of your wins and the quality of your losses. So funny enough, I saw Alabama fans, what a surprise, that were talking about the layout and everything and how they got screwed out of the playoff and whatnot. And this is like a Barstool Alabama account, but the Barstool SEC account slammed them, and they were like, "You didn't make the playoff because you lost to 6-7 Oklahoma." And that's what should be one of the most important factors is how good are your good wins and how bad are your bad losses. And one of the things that the SEC loves to do, and hopefully if they do implement this model where we are really focusing on the on-field stuff, is you stop scheduling your cupcake games for week 12 of the regular season. Like, no one wants to see Alabama taking on the Citadel. Like, that just shouldn't happen. There's no reason for LSU to play Elon in week 12. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not fun for college football fans, certainly, because at that point in the year, we're trying to watch the really important games because the college football playoff is narrowing down. And the SEC, who claims like, oh, it's just different here, why are you giving me these terrible football games in November? So I do think that a format like this is going to be a much better approach if and when we do decide to extend, I do want to touch on the point that you made earlier on is like, it feels like this has been around for like 8 years because we're already looking to change it. That, dude, it's been 1 year with the current format and they're already moving on. Like this is just insanity what we're seeing right now with the way the college football playoff format is being laid out and consistently changed over and over and constantly debated. And now you have conferences like the SEC who want to hijack it, and it's just a big old mess. But I do love Brett Yormark for several reasons, but if no other reason to be like, yeah, that was my idea. Sure. Phenomenal.
Yeah, and I'll raise you a glass here, and I'll say one thing you did mention was the SEC thinks they're different, and I think you're right. I think I'll argue and say the SEC is different, maybe not in the ways that they hope for us to think of it, though. But you talk about them playing like Mercer or something week 12. That's because they have 8 conference games. They don't have 9 conference games like us in the Big 12 have, and that's something that potentially might change with this new college football playoff format. For the record, everyone listening, this is more for 2026 and beyond. Now, there are some changes for 2025. It will go to a straight seeding format of the 12 teams. So we will still have a 12-team football playoff. So just for the sake of keeping it organized, because I know it can get messy, we're talking for 2026 and beyond of this 5-11 format proposal. You know, also, Brett Yormark talked about saying that he is strongly behind this 5-11, and Chris Vanini of The Athletic put this tweet out and put this quote out for Brett Yormark, and he said he is okay with the league going to the college football format, going to 5-11, even if the league might not get 2 bids in a given year. He says, quote, and that's okay because we've got to earn it on the field. I tell my room, you're rewarded when you perform at the highest levels. There is no way in heck, Richie, that we would ever hear that come out of Greg Sankey's mouth, somebody who fought for Alabama to get into the college football playoffs, Ole Miss, South Carolina, all these teams that didn't have the same resume as the other teams that got in, and quite frankly, didn't even have the same resume as BYU, who missed.
I was going to say there was other teams
yeah.
in the Big 12 that had better resumes. BYU, Kansas State, Iowa State, they had better resumes. But yeah, no, Brett Yormark, for him to make that comment, not only is that a huge dig at Sankey, but it's also just the fact that he's willing to take integrity for his conference to say, yeah, you know, some years we're not going to have multiple teams, and that's on us. No one should have automatic bids. The Big 10 wants 4 bids automatically. The SEC wants 4 bids automatically. That's terrible because you just shouldn't reward placing top 4 in your conference to go to the playoff. I mean, that would be if the NFL decided to expand their playoffs and first place and second place of every division gets to go to the playoffs for 8 teams, and then we'll have 2 more wild card teams. Like, no, that's ridiculous. You can't do that because it ruins the integrity of the format. So Brett Yormark going, yeah, no, that's fine. Like, that totally just put the ball in Sankey's court of like, go ahead and say something. Right now you're looking like the villain, and I don't think there's anyone outside of the southeast of the country that does not see him as the villain right now.
And I think it's warranted because he's making
very
these
much
type
so
of conversations where are putting him into this fact where make it seem like he has all the power. And it might not be the case, especially if they move to this 5-11. And look, if they go to this 5-11 format, how can you make the argument that it's not good for every conference in college football, including the SEC and the Big 10? Yormark said in the quote, as we mentioned, ESPN, that some of the SEC coaches like this idea. If you think that your conference is good enough to get 4 or 5 teams in, then that means that they should be one of the 11 at-large bids after you have your conference winners. This 5+11 thing does multiple things, Richie. It, one, doesn't ruin the conference championships. It doesn't take that away.
And that matters.
That absolutely matters. I care about the 23 flavors in Dr. Pepper, and I care about that in the Big 12 championship game, okay? I absolutely care about that. And other conferences should follow suit as well. And then it doesn't mess with the G5's bid. That's the exact same bid they have right now. So all the G5s should be excited. And if you are an at-large bid, if you're good enough to be in the top whatever seeds to get yourself in, you still have another chance as a G5 school. But the SEC, the Big Ten, if you think that you're good enough to get 4 bids in, well, maybe you could even potentially get 5 or 6 if the committee or the rankings or college football committees put you in a higher seed. So if I'm Sankey, if I'm the Big Ten commissioner, if I'm Brett Yormark, if I'm any of these college football commissioners throughout the Power 4, I'm all for this 5-11, especially for college conference championship games, and for saying we are the better conference. Here's proof, not because somebody gave us 4 auto bids, but because we proved it year in and year out. These are the best teams that deserve to be in the college football playoffs.
Right. And if you get to a point where you're talking about a 8-win Mississippi State program that is snubbed of the playoff because they finished like 5th place in the SEC or something, like just a insane scenario, like at that point, like you're falling on deaf ears, man. Like it was already really annoying when Lane Kiffin was just abusing his Twitter account and just yapping. And then Shane Beamer gets involved, and it's like, you guys just need to just stop. Like if you were good enough to be in the playoff, you would have gotten into the playoff. Win the games you're supposed to win, and don't lose the games that you're supposed to win. Like it's as simple as that. So you go to a 16-team model, 16 teams with 11 at-large bids. At that point, if the SEC is not getting their 4 bids in that they think they deserve, I think that says a lot more about your conference than it does the format and the layout of itself. Like that feels like it's on you.
2 things before we wrap up this segment. One, the Big 12 proves everything when it comes to parity. We have seen this conference be one of the best in college football year in and year out. And then we've seen down years because the conference eats each other from the inside out. That is perfect proof for any conference in college football why there should not be automatic bids. There might be a year when you deserve 4 teams. There might be a year you deserve only 2. There might be a year that's 6. In any conference deserves to be in this college football playoffs. There should never be a round number saying we're going to let you in just because we said so at one point in a meeting this spring. And then 2, we talk about, it doesn't matter if there's going to be 12 teams, Richie, 16 teams. Let's go to the college basketball talk real quick. It doesn't matter if there's 68 teams. There's always going to be one person, one team, and this year it was West Virginia. We talked about it all the time, that deserves to be there or should be there. There's always going to be conversation. There's always going to be discourse. Don't ever rule that out. It's not going away. So if you think that is the only narrative why to continue to grow this college football format, it is definitely not. It is all about the money, baby. And speaking
Almighty
of money,
dollar.
go ahead. Yep. And speaking of money, well, Kenny Dillingham asked for a bunch of money after losing in the college football playoffs last year to Texas. He kept his quarterback around, and we're going to talk about that next right here on this college crossover of Locked On Kansas State and Locked On Sun Devils. But first, Richie, the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's game-winning shots, breakout players, a complete blowout like the Oklahoma City Thunder just did against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, that was a rough series. But FanDuel is always there for you. And just tonight with the NBA playoffs, potentially finalizing the NBA Finals, can the Indiana Pacers beat the New York Knicks to move on to the finals to face those OKC Thunder, one of the youngest teams to ever make the NBA Finals for the record? There's a lot of exciting things that FanDuel can be there for you. Player props, performance trends, same game parlays. I mentioned this on my show yesterday. It feels so dirty to do a same game parlay with the Pacers and the Knicks together with that rivalry. It just feels very dirty, but you can do it thanks to FanDuel, Richie. What's your thoughts on this game? How are you feeling about it?
Give me Pacers by whatever the spread is, and give me Halliburton over on his points. You know what? Give me Brunson too, because I think Jalen Brunson is going to have to will the Knicks to any kind of win from this point in the series on.
Well, if you want to follow Richie's advice there and you're new to FanDuel, it is a perfect time to get in on this and sign up. If you head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet, if Richie's advice gives you a chance to do so, you could win $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment count with FanDuel, the official partner of the NBA. And welcome back to this college crossover, Locked On Sun Devils and Locked On Kansas State. I think we got in a good conversation earlier with the whole thing that happened with the college football format, just kind of getting an idea of what to expect. And it's not going to get nice before it's going to be dark for a while. I mean, we heard Big 12 athletic directors saying this means war. Like, it's going to get dirty. It's going to get messy, Richie. But let's kind of switch and move to a different kind of potentially better feel, maybe change the vibes in the room here. And let's talk about Arizona State football. And I'll swing in some Kansas State while we're here as well. Arizona State obviously winning the Big 12 last year, going to the college football playoffs and having one of the best, if not the best, college football game of the season, especially in the playoff bracket. They were just one play away from beating Texas, and you can make the argument they should have done it, just never happened. I would have loved to see them go out to the next round. But after the game in the press conference, Kenny Dillingham went out, and he's now famously known for saying, hey, if you want more of this, you need to spend. You need to spend a lot of money. You need to bring more to this program, help them. You're only a few years away from firing Herm Edwards on the field. Like, you're only just a few years away from that. And now you're talking about them potentially being a team that can return back to the Big 12 championship for a second year in a row. You're talking about them having multiple NFL draft picks, some that could be mainstream in the NFL next year, like Cam Scatterbo. What's your thoughts and your overall vibe of this team heading into the new year?
I mean, it has to be a very positive outlook. Arizona State is returning the second most production from the 2024 season, only behind Clemson in the entire country. And they're bringing back, I know Cam Scatterbo, the People's running back, is gone. Sam Levitt is back. Sam Levitt is already being talked about as a Heisman candidate and a future first-round draft pick. Jordan Tyson, his number one receiver, is back. He is going to be one of the betting favorites for the Fred Biletnikoff Award for the top receiver in the nation. They're returning the vast majority of that defense. 4 or 5 starters on the offensive line are back. The entire tight end room is returning. There's a lot to like on this roster. And if nothing else, Christian, your head coach is back. Your offensive coordinator is back. Your defensive coordinator is back. And all of your assistant staff is back. They are running this team back, essentially. Like, you lost some big pieces. Cam Scatterbo is gone. Lee Futanu, who was your all-conference center, is gone. Shamari Simmons, one of the best defensive backs in the Big 12 last year, is gone. He was the one at the start of the second half who popped that Texas running back so hard in the end zone that Quinn Ewers grabbed the ball and had to go down to a knee for a safety. So you are losing guys like that, and that matters. But you're bringing back so many important key pieces scattered on both sides of the football. They did a really good job with the transfer class that's coming in. They got someone that can actually kick the ball in Jesus Gomez. They restocked the receiver room. They are loading up the secondary, and it's pretty decent recruiting class too. Like, there's a lot to like about this team. Oh, and the transfer portal almost didn't affect ASU. They are returning over 50 players who were involved in the 2-deep depth chart for the team last year. Not 50, because that wouldn't make sense. But there's a lot of guys who are returning that were on the 2-deep depth chart for offense and defense. So if you don't have a positive outlook for this team, you were either all in that it was a Cinderella run, or you live in Tucson, Arizona. And if you do, I'm sorry.
Noted. Okay, well, hey, look, you guys are still brand new to the Big 12, winning it in the first year, being part of the conference. So maybe for some of my listeners who are Big 12 believers, been with the Big 12 for quite some time, is this the most stable this program has been in a long time, if ever? Take me to like maybe your history of Arizona State, like, because right now it sounds like the program's really stable under Kenny Dillingham. Has there been a time where it's been any better?
I mean, about 10 years ago, when you had Todd Graham leading the program, you were in a very good spot there, and you had consecutive 10-win seasons under him. You were basically one game away from going to a second straight Pac-12 championship game, and were that close to making the first ever college football playoff that Oregon ended up taking the Pac-12 crown to. Now, I don't know if ASU's beating Heisman Trophy winner Marcus Mariota that year, but I mean, that was a really good ASU team. and they had quite a bit of success under Graham. Things started to fall off towards the end. They moved on. Herm Edwards comes in. We all know what happens after that. Prior to that, I mean, there were stints with Dennis Erickson, and oh my goodness, he was an offensive coordinator for the Falcons for a little while. I can't remember his name, and that's going to kill me. But I mean, there really has not been this level of consistency, and certainly not this level of confidence in the program since before the turn of the century. Like, you're looking at the 90 Sun Devils, who were one horrible drive against Ohio State away from winning a Rose Bowl, which could have potentially been a national championship for the team, or going back into the 70s when they were run under Frank Cush and they were routinely winning double-digit games. Like, we're in year 2 of Kenny Dillingham. I understand. The outlook for Arizona State Sun Devils football has never been brighter in my lifetime, and I know that there are generations that are older than me that would tell you the same thing of, like, I can't remember the last time we were this excited for ASU football and for the future too. Like, because you're going to lose a lot of these guys at the end of this season. There's a lot of seniors on this team, and guys like Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson can go pro. But they are stocking this team up with recruiting, and they're killing the transfer portal to the point where, like, even if you lose majority of that team, you're still sitting there and you're like, you can still win 8 or 9 games in a rebuild. You're excited.
Gotta love that. So it sounds like potentially it might be now or never for Arizona State to just get back to the college football playoffs with all those players leaving, at least for the time being, because there might be a, you know, as you quote on saying, a rebuild. Before we go to break here, I got to ask you the question. I think Avery Johnson's going to have a big breakout year, and I will tell you why after the break. But Sam Levitt, we're still talking Arizona State here. There's all these Big 12 quarterback rankings that have been passed around this offseason. I'm sure you've seen them across social media. Some are absolutely just terrible. Some are good. Don't get me wrong. Some are good. And some of those good ones do have Sam Levitt towards the top, if not number 1 across the Big 12. Now, for good reason, he helped that team get him to the Big 12 championship, win it, and get to the college football playoffs. As we mentioned, had a great run this past season. You mentioned that he could be one of the top quarterbacks taken in the NFL draft next year. What gives you, other than the reasons that I just said, what makes you think that with all the other quarterbacks in the Big 12, in which, in my opinion, there are no better conference if you go from top to bottom with quarterbacks? It's the quarterbacks are just insane in this conference. But what makes you think Sam Levitt deserves the number 1 spot this season?
Well, I'm typically someone that goes with the mantra of, like, until they prove otherwise, you got to continue to give them their flowers kind of thing. Fair. There are scenarios like if ASU was the opposite of returning all their production and they brought back nothing, it's like, yeah, you're still probably looking at it as like one of the favorites, but they're certainly not the favorite to win the conference kind of thing. But the vast majority of the stuff is coming back. And for Sam Levitt, his number 1 receiver is back. His head coach is back. His offensive coordinator is back. He's got the majority of his offensive line in front of him too. And there's just a lot to like for Sam Levitt to take that next step forward. You can also look at the way Sam Levitt started the season and the way that Sam Levitt ended the season and have your mind blown. I remember at the beginning of the year, first 4 games before they went into the bye week, one of the things I wanted to see was whether or not Sam Levitt could connect on the deep ball. He just couldn't. First 4 games. I said, you know what? That's fine. This is a redshirt freshman. Let's just move on. We got to start figuring some other stuff out. And then the last month and a half, I mean, him and Jordan Tyson were connecting for deep balls on a weekly basis. And it's like, that clicked really quick. That did not take very long for Sam Levitt to get comfortable and figure out. The growth that you saw from week 1 to the Peach Bowl for Sam Levitt was substantial. I would truly be curious, without my rose-colored glasses, of course, to see another quarterback in the country who went from, you know, you can win with him, not because of him, to I can carry the team on my back. It was insane to see.
Well, all right. You know, Arizona State and Kansas State don't play each other in the regular season next year, but I say, wait 1 second. There is a chance, and I think a very good chance, that they will go up against each other in 2025. I'll explain next right here on this college crossover between Kansas State and the Sun Devils. no one on the schedule for Arizona State and Kansas State, at least for each other. We don't play each other this season. Could that be a good thing, Richie? Well, I potentially think so. When I've gone through the schedule for Kansas State initially, before some of these other things just happened, I was excited that we didn't play Arizona State and we didn't play BYU. Those were the two things that I was really pumped about. Now, with BYU potentially losing their quarterback, with Jake Retzlaff, between what's going on with the whole honor code accusations, all that stuff like that. We don't have to really dig into that too much on this show. The one that I'm most excited for now is not having to play Arizona State, because I think Arizona State is going to be another great team, and it could help Kansas State have a really good record heading into potentially getting them back to the Big 12 championship for the first time since 2022. And my prediction this offseason was that Kansas State was going to take on BYU in the Big 12 championship. Apologize. That was my early prediction. But with the new acquisitions, I have to go out to record here, and I figured it'd be a good time to say it on this show, since you and I are here, that I think Kansas State will now take on Arizona State in the Big 12 championship, the battle for Dr. Pepper, all 23 flavors, if you will. Can you name all the 23 flavors?
I sure can't.
No, me neither. And I don't think you should. I don't think the world should know, even if you did.
I don't want to know the Krabby Patty secret formula. Why would I want to know the 23 flavors?
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that one. But I do think that there's a chance that we both meet up and fight for the Big 12 championship. With that being said, I also think that there will be two teams from the Big 12 in the college football playoffs. And I think we're looking at them right here between Kansas State and Arizona State. What say you?
I mean, I say that Kansas State, on a near annual basis, with the very rare bad season, and when it happens, you're like, what the heck? Where does that come from? You're just used to Kansas State every single year, 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins, and flirting with the conference championship game. That's just the way I see Kansas State. So you tell me you see Kansas State, ASU, I sit here and go, yeah, that sounds right to me. I will tell you, a couple of months ago, when I made super way too early predictions, I said it was going to be ASU and Baylor. And I still really like Baylor, but I am not as bullish on them as I once was. And I will tell you that Texas Tech, all the moves that they have made, they're what you call the paper champions, right? They look phenomenal on paper. There's a ton of future NFL talent there. They're returning a ton of production. The coaching staff is intact. I do believe in them. But, the Cleveland Browns and Chicago Bears have won a lot of paper championships in their time playing in the pros. So we need to see it. But, I mean, Texas Tech still won 8 games last year, regardless of that. And I think that's your 4. I think that's your 4 right there. If you were to have the playoff that has been pitched around for your conference, right, it's any order of ASU, Kansas State, Texas Tech, and Baylor. I do think Iowa State is still going to be really good. I don't know how you replace 2 1,000-yard receivers. BYU, who knows what happens with everything that's going on there, because it's not just about losing a player. You're talking about just such a big cloud hanging over your program that could really just have this massive negative effect on you, right? Utah, who knows with them? They can be really good or they could be mediocre. It's a fun conference. You know this as well as I do. I'm not sleeping on TCU for what it's worth, but as far as what you say, Kansas State, ASU, yeah, I can totally see that, especially because I'll endear myself to the only Wildcats that I like. I love Avery Johnson. I'm a big fan.
And let me tell you about Avery Johnson so we can keep this on the show here. We talked about Sam Leavitt. I think Avery Johnson's going to have a huge year too under center of the starting quarterback of Kansas State. There were obviously some things that happened towards the end of the season that didn't work out in his favor. I still think he wasn't 100% healthy, especially after the Colorado game. He took some big licks in that one. Obviously didn't play that great against Arizona State. The game before that, the wheels fell off against Houston. It was a bad little bit of run for Avery Johnson. I think that changes this year. I really like the wide receivers they brought in. I think that the size of the wide receivers is really going to help Avery Johnson with some of his throwing issues that we saw this past season. He's dual threat. And I mean, you might be able to say that Sam Leavitt might be the best quarterback in the Big 12, and you might even make an argument for the country. And I'll go ahead and say that Avery Johnson is without a doubt the best dual threat quarterback in the Big 12. And I don't think you can fight that one. I don't think anybody can fight that one. So
I would, because Sam Leavitt is the best dual threat quarterback in the conference.
Well, maybe we'll have to have another conversation about that one because we're running out of time. But either way, I think we're going to see both these teams find themselves in the Big 12 championship this year. You know, I'm a little nervous about Baylor. We play them this year. I made a show saying how it might be the scariest on the schedule. And I did see
open the season in Waco. ASU opens Big 12 play in Waco.
That's a tough one. That's a tough
one.
That's
a very tough one.
In Waco as well.
Yeah.
You know, I saw something on social media that somebody said Baylor's going to go 11-1, and their only loss will be to TCU. So you just brought that.
I like TCU. I am not out on Hypnotoad. I am not out on Hypnotoad.
Interesting.
That is a sleeper team this year.
There's one thing that I will always say on this show when I'm talking, especially as a Big 12 believer. The parity is so insane with this conference. What happened to you guys last year? You were predicted to be last in the conference. The first time in the league, you won the whole dang thing. It's not the first time that happened. Speaking of the Frog, in 2022, when they made the national championship, they were predicted 7th in a league that didn't have 16 teams at that point. That's also the same year that Kansas State won the Big 12 championship against TCU, but they still found a way to make it to the Natty against Georgia. There was a lot of crazy things that happen in the Big 12, and media days are right around the corner. And maybe whoever finishes last in that one, probably not last, because it's probably going to be Arizona, and we know that's not happening. But maybe second to last might find themselves at the very tippy top when it's all said and done. Richie, where can everyone find you at Locked On Sun Devils?
Well, you know, Locked On Sun Devils is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, if you want to see us in a visual form. But, you know, we got a Twitter at LO_Sun Devils. You can always hit me up too on Twitter. I am chronically online at Richie Brads with a Z. Let's try it again. At Richie Brads with a Z 36. Talk some ball. Just know that I'm never ever wrong. And when I'm wrong, it's not my fault.
Fair enough. And I love that. And you can always find Locked On Kansas State, same places you can find Locked On Sun Devils, your team every day. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And this has been a Locked On College crossover of Locked On Kansas State and Locked On Sun Devils.